I'm going to end up helping them out with everything. So
cool. How long have you been with Amada?
Well, I was their first franchisee. Ultimately, Chad Fotheringham and I were on the same sales team at Pfizer. He left and started Amada with a college buddy. I got let go 6 years later, and I'd done some other business stuff, on my own, and so I was their first franchisee. But really, it's been more of a business partner than a franchisee in the system. So, I've been critical in developing a lot of their systems and finding partners for all the other franchisees and everything like that. So,
oh wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
sounds like it's worked out for everybody.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun watching the company grow, for sure.
Yeah,
I remember sitting around a table with the three of us and planning the launch of the company, and now there's going on 100 of us, so it's kind of fun. Or 100 locations.
Yeah, that's great. It's always awesome when those cocktail napkin plans work out.
Right,
exactly.
So I talked to Chad. It sounds like after we talked, you guys talked. Is he going to try to get on for this conference call? Or is he just kind of delegated it all to me to on this part of it? So. He's
not going to join today, and what we wanted to do is run a couple of ideas past you. We're preparing for a meeting with him. We're going to meet with him when we're out in California the first full week of February. So we have a meeting on the 6th before he heads down to Costa Rica.
Okay.
So we're going to meet with him and Jared and whoever else might be involved at the home office.
Great.
So we wanted to run a couple things by you in preparation for that and get your feedback and input.
Sure.
And then and we'll take that forward.
Great.
Okay. And one thing that we neglected to ask the other day was, how do you normally do these types of purchases? Is this something that would be done at the franchise level, or is it something that they would do at the franchisor level and then, kind of charge back to you all? Like, what's your normal setup, or do you have a kind of a systematic way to go about that?
Well, so ultimately the franchise so AFI, they'll vet out certain vendors like yourself, and if it's something that they want to roll out, that they see benefit for rolling out system wide, then they'll make it available. They'll work out the arrangements with you guys, how it's going to work, what the partnership's going to look like, all those terms, and then they'll roll it out as a system wide. A system-wide vendor, and they may carry all the cost and then pass the cost down to the franchise partners. They bill them when they take out their royalties, or they could have you guys bill the franchise partners direct. If some of the vendors that they vetted out, they've decided that they weren't going to adapt it as a system-wide thing that is kind of monitored and controlled by the franchise company, but they do kind of endorse it, the vendor, and allow each and then say basically, hey, here's somebody that we've chosen not to roll it out system-wide with, but if you want to individually work with them, then you can, because each partner is independently owned and operated. So even if AFI chooses to make it something they're going to roll out system wide, each location can decide whether or not they want to take on the additional costs of using the program.
Okay. And the kind of the referral model that you talked about on Tuesday, is that something you're just testing right now? Because I think you're like in one of your 10 locations, but are there other franchises doing that or trying to do it?
What do you mean referral?
How repeatable do you think that is across the country?
When you say referral, what exactly are you referring to?
Yeah, the placement fee. Referral.
No, so that is in the franchise disclosure document. That is part of the revenue stream that every franchise location, can use when they're ready to use it. So when I started my business, I was doing placements, and but then my home care business kind of took off. So now, I do, like I said, we did the 80, but um, it it's nowhere near the volume of what my home care business is by any means. Some locations, focusing on it, others don't. But it is in our FDD as a revenue stream. The issue that most franchisees have with it is we don't have a really good system really to monitor and track. It's pretty labor intensive, and so some locations are choosing not to not to pursue it at this time. They're getting their home care business, because basically what happens with home care is, you bring on a client can be with you for a long time. It's just residual. Placements.
Yep.
You get it, you place it, it's done, you get paid. It's like a real estate thing, and so you are always feeding it. And
Yeah.
and some locations that have hired sales reps, they got on, revenue started coming, and then the sales reps basically go start their own business, and they take all, then they have those existing relationships, and so it's hard to have value between the agency and the referral source, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have, are the franchises responsible for those relationships, the referral relationships, or do you have agreements with national chains at the franchisor level?
They have some national relationships with the facilities, like the assisted living communities, the big ones,
Yeah.
that there's a contract in place so that if the hospital gives us a referral, we can go to those facilities, and automatically place. There's nothing nationally right now with a chain of hospitals or rehab facilities that say, hey, you are our go-to, agency for placements.
Okay.
And that's kind of what the process of having something like this would hopefully do, is make that relationship in place.
Sure. You could go to someone like Sunrise or something you have a large overlap with, and get some sort of national referral agreement that would benefit every franchise, right?
Right.
Okay. That makes sense. And the other question before I dive into the pricing here, would you foresee a need to do a data integration with your ADLware software? We didn't really talk about that, but just in the kind of the workflow.
No.
Is that something that?
No, because the ADLware software really is not is more of a home care software.
Okay.
It's really not designed to do this function. I've been talking with some people about building some type of placement software, that we can manage clients, and the billing of them, and who's attached with the CRM and stuff like that. But we right now don't really have anything in place. Right now, basically, we do it, we put it in QuickBooks, we bill it out.
Okay. Do you have like a protocol or kind of a playbook for folks working on referrals? Like, here are the steps, or here are the things you cover with the family members, and
yeah,
is there a process?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have and each state's going to be a little bit different. So like Washington State requires us to give a disclosure statement of how we're compensated, what our relationship is with them. We have an intake form. There's some HIPAA stuff we have to sign with them. We take that assessment and that HIPAA. We then meet with, share that with the facilities that we are looking at placing, to make sure that the facility can service that client. And then we give the placement, we do the placement. And at that point, when the placement is done, they're pretty much out of our hands. We'll call it 30 days to make sure that everything went well. And then we bill them, after 30 days.
And so I've heard you say this a couple of times. The biggest challenge really is, getting that sales rep that has the relationships, and then having them leave to take the book of business with them. So anything we could do to kind of insulate against that is going to be helpful.
Yeah, and anything that we can provide as a resource, as a tool to the sales rep, where the sales rep says, "Hey, I value the company because they're providing, resources and tools for me to go do my job and track my work." You know what I mean? And it's not so much basically I go develop the relationships. I then have to sign and do all the paperwork. There is no software program for me to track anything. There is nothing. You know what I mean? And so there, after a while, you can see how a sales rep basically is splitting the commissions with you when they're basically doing and ultimately 100% of the work. That gets to wear on them, and they basically, they split after a while, especially if they're
Yeah.
that driver type of personality.
Sure.
I'm really glad you said that. That helps us to, as we think about the demonstration and follow up, how we can make sure we cover a couple of different instances to show from the perspective of the salesperson, where we can communicate to them the efficiencies
Right.
they'll get. But that paperwork, taking it off and can't report it. You can, I'm speaking for myself, but it's something I don't like to do. I'm not good at, and I fall behind on. But if it's integrated into the workflow and just the report comes out,
Right.
they can be a lot more efficient and makes a lot more people.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Those are the questions I had. Ron, did you have anything else before we
No,
share the screen here?
I'm good.
Okay. Go ahead and share my screen. Get this presentation. All right. Can you see the slide I have up, Robert?
I can. Yep.
Okay, great. So let me just run through this. The reason I asked about kind of how you all, make your purchases is we really kind of put two models here. One is if we're going to go straight, to the franchise owners, and, this is kind of an optional program and everybody can opt in or not. And so we applied an initial discount from our list price of 15% for, franchise locations, between 1 and 5. So that would be a monthly price of $700 a month and $8,500 per location per year. A deeper discount if there's between 6 and 10 locations, or actually 6 or more locations. I don't know if anybody owns more than 10. I know you said you have 10, but
Right.
what's the typical makeup? Is it if people have 1 or 2, or are there other folks with large blocks?
Nobody. I think there are several that own 2. I'm not sure if anybody owns 3. And when I say I have partners in all those, so I don't have 100% ownership. I bring in, equity partners is what I bring in, and so
Okay.
but ultimately there's others that there might be somebody who has 3 at this point, but most people have 1. I'd say maybe 10% have 2. So.
Okay. That makes sense. So that we looked at, there would be some economy of scale, for us if we contracted, with the franchisor, because we have there'd be a single invoice. We could centralize support and training. So we could go even deeper on the discount if we were to say, do 25 plus locations, on a single contract. And so that gets the price down to $600 per month and $7,200 for the year.
Right.
And I know there's a lot of steps between here and there and making that decision, but we wanted to get your feedback. We're looking at a nominal one-time training implementation at $500 a location, which obviously say you opted in for 7 of your locations. If we could do all that training at once, we'd only charge you the $500 one time.
Right.
So it's just to cover our time and expense to do the training. And then there would obviously be ongoing support as well.
Did Chad talk
So what's
to
your
you?
initial thought or feedback on
Well,
what you see here.
Like I said, it all kind of goes down to value on this. I mean, do you guys have any? So you guys are back east, right?
We are.
We're headquartered in Orange County, New York, north of New York City.
Okay. The Are there any hospital chains or anybody who has like been introduced to your software, expressed it? If I chose to, we'll say those five of us and we did the $8,500, this is where we're coming out. Basically, we're starting afresh. There's no existing relationships with hospitals, right? That basically go, okay, great, you've got the software program. We're kind of familiar with what this concept is, what this thing is, and it's almost, I don't want to say plug and play, but there's kind of an existing thing where there's a good chance that there's going to be readily adaptation with any existing hospitals. The resistance that I see that franchisees may have is they're going to drop $8,500. They're going to have a new software program, and then they got to go pitch the program to hospitals and people, and then they just don't get any buy-in, and they bought the software program doesn't really have any value in it to them. That's kind of the potential kind of resistance that I see. That's not my resistance, I'm just telling you, because I've been talking with the franchisees about how do we improve. Like I said, we have ADLware to manage our day-to-day business, and I'm saying, for us that have been into the space long enough, how much are they willing to pay for a software program that can help manage their placement business, and that's the biggest thing. It's just that not everybody is a true entrepreneur, if you will, like maybe like yourselves that took the risk to put this thing out here, or Chad Chad and Tafa, or myself, at the very beginning. A lot of them, they buy franchises because they like having, established, proven systems. And this is kind of a new introduction to them where franchisees down the road as they come in, and they say, oh, there's 15, 20 locations that are using this, and and it's working and it's generating revenues. They're more apt to say, yep, I'm in. Because I know it works. But anything new, people are so swamped in embedded into their how they do business, kind of thinking, oh, I've got to learn a new system. So I'm just giving you feedback on what I've seen over the last 5 years. Anytime we try to introduce something new and along with how they do business, change is hard. The other question would be on here is, not everybody is super techie savvy, and I'm following the workload. What you've seen, it seems to be pretty simple on that. But if it becomes one where it's a clunky system, then people could have some where it's not easy to adapt and learn. That could be a hurdling block in somebody saying that they want to fork out that type of cash. So,
sure, that'll make sense, Robert. Yeah, excellent feedback. One of the things that we, have cursorily discussed with Chad at this point, and we'll get into more detail when we go out there. But he mentioned wanting to do a pilot so we could get some kind of performance data, some analytics to pitch not only to the franchisees, but also to potential hospital partners, and to kind of arm them with the ability to go out and kind of show them, here's how we do business. This is what we have to track. This is what we can report back to you. To help folks strengthen those partnerships in their local markets. And then also we're both involved with these kind of traveling care coordination trade shows that I believe Chad and Jared are working on locking down a sponsorship for that.
Right.
And so what we could do then is, those are I don't know, series of like 8 or 10 shows around the country that we can then co-promote the service in those local markets, kind of to coincide with those shows. Because a lot of the folks that will be attending are going to be from the hospital side that would be those referral partners.
Right.
And so give your folks, an opportunity to, to meet them, start to build those relationships, strengthen existing ones, and to promote the service so that it creates a buzz around it. And so I think we could put a really solid, marketing campaign and launch campaign around that.
Right.
And to do, we have to see what the context of the pilot is and how long it would go and how we do ramp things. But I can totally see the feedback that you gave and why that would be resistant. I would have the same concern. I'd want to have the program rolling before I committed to the software.
Sure.
But that said, we did try to price it so that, even at 2, if you do 2 placements a year, you're breaking even or better. Especially on the even at paying your sales reps on the kind of the enterprise pricing model. So
I would add to that. I think the Robert, as you said, that it's a herd mentality. So if they see the success, they'll adopt it. A couple of thoughts I'd share is we can put together also, if it makes sense on the road, an ROI, which can explain not just on the extra accounts you get, but how much does it save you to keep one more sales rep, versus starting again.
Right.
And what's interesting is that, as you've seen from different shows, there are a few different companies trying to get into this business. No one's, in my opinion, is doing it really, as a super polished version.
Right.
I mean, the closest one I see is Care Control, but that's just Chuck kind of run the whole business himself,
right? Which
is not scalable. And I think if we can show, hey, here's how you stick, here's the reports. If you do this, you'll be able to stand out. That are, just if you do everything right, are available at the click of a couple of buttons, and make you look a lot more professional than the other ones trying to break into this business. They'll see the benefit. But this isn't like a new business line you're trying to convince them to get into. It's part of your core franchise. It's just a path to get there.
Yeah. No. I see exactly what you're saying. Yeah, he's sick. He's out. He's real sick. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, how many competitors do you have in this space? I mean, I haven't seen any that are out there doing this. And I'm kind of shocked by it actually that there's not I guess we are on the front wave of this this penalties and that are coming in that are put into place. But do you have a lot of people coming behind you, knocking on the door with this type of software program?
Not like us yet. There are a lot of case management softwares out there. So what you see is a lot of big hospital EMRs will have a module that does this. And then on the post-acute side, because readmissions have not been a big issue, which tends to drive, and it hasn't been a quality measure until recently, we're timing it, we think, pretty well with interest.
Right.
And then otherwise, it's really just like you might have a sales force out there that might add a module, but it's not built with flexibility, that can make it so that it's spoon feeds like we have it with a checklist of exactly what to do and what to say, built for that low experience worker, so that it's just spoon fed to them exactly what they need to get and done. And so I'm sure there'll be competitors that we see popping up, but we haven't. The competitors we compete against are those in those groups I just mentioned. Right.
What about if Amada does this? If I do this and I pay the $8,500 or $7,200, is there some exclusivity in the areas that I'm working? So like the way that franchising works with Amada is I have ownership or exclusivity in certain zip codes, and anything in those zip codes they cannot sell their technology, their put anybody else in there, and so would it be one where anywhere that Amada has using the software that in my location where I have that, do I have exclusivity on that, or are you going to be partnering with other people as well?
So the way to answer that is that if, depending on what the investment Amada would make,
Right.
we're definitely open to having some exclusivity. Zip code is really tough for us because if we're talking to, we're not right now. We're not talking to a lot of groups like yours. Mostly talking to post-acute skilled nursing folks.
Right.
But like if some business has a satellite office that does something similar to this, and they end up using it, it's very tough for us to identify that up front. What we would be interested in talking about is if you had specific competitors that are established chains, like a Care Patrol, that you said, hey, if we invest this much in you, we don't want to see you just turn around and sell to them. We'd respect the partnership and look at it from that perspective, which is just a lot easier to control.
Right. And
but this be like, go ahead.
Is your end game on this to which if I was you, it would be right, is to build a software program that has value that ultimately a large system or a large organization is going to pay you a very large sum to purchase the system. I mean, is that kind of where you're going on that? So what I'm saying is, if Amada or everybody buys into this, we're in this thing here, and then next thing you know, we're partnered with somebody else that may not have the same alignment in there. I'm sure that if we do something, that there'll be protections in there. That if that sale happens, that there's protections in there. But I'm sure that
yeah. Well, so we're so early on that most likely exit strategy that we would see would probably be selling to a private equity company,
right,
or some other larger software company. I don't see it being another provider.
Sure.
Like they just healthcare providers tend to dabble with venture capital, but they don't buy software companies.
Right.
And so that's kind of, but I'd love to have that problem to know
right.
what that would be. But we're so far from that right now. To be honest with you, Robert,
Sure.
That's realistically that's 5-7 years away for us.
Gotcha. And how long has this system been? Yeah. How old is your program? I mean, how long has it been out of development as it is right now?
Sure. And to be very transparent, we launched in September of last year, and so we have a couple of customers using it now thoroughly, and we're adding on more. Now that we've kind of been out in the market for a little bit, right, and had something really to sell. So, but part of the reason we're have a lot of room to be flexible is where we are in development and in life cycle of our company.
And do you guys see? I'm sure there's wave phase 1, 2, 3, 4 in development. Do you guys? Yeah, I'm sure you brought it to market with limited capacity that we're seeing here. You don't need to tell me what the phase 2, 3, 4, 5 is. Do you have strategies, for growing additional? Because I in my mind, I can think of other additional things that if I own the software here, that I would, we can add this feature, we got this feature. Are there additional features or services in here that you see adding on? And when you add those on, is those features going to be an upsell on there?
That's a great question. So we have a roadmap of things that we're looking to add, in small enhancements right now.
Yeah.
We don't see what we're trying to do is keep the same code base for everybody. Although technically the way we designed the software is that it's a single tenant program. So every customer has a copy of their own code base. Every customer has a copy of their own database. And so what we what we're really trying to be diligent with is keeping them consistent across the organization.
Right.
So we have no plan right now for selling additional modules. Tim and I come from a business where that's been, we simply try to do that, and it's a really, unless it's a huge customer base, and even then, it's really hard to sell one-off modules.
Right.
So what for the long term, and something we can obviously, I'd be very comfortable committing to, any enhancement we do over the next X years would be included in this agreement.
Sure.
I don't foresee any carve-outs of it selling one-off modules, but if we did, then we'd be very comfortable committing that whatever we come out with from a technology perspective, would be included in our agreement.
Since September, how many users, or I mean, how do you have 50 people? Do you have 15 people? How many people are regularly using it, and how has it been tested as far as bugs? I mean, one of the biggest complaints, like when we launched the ADLware software, it was new.
Sure.
And it was riddled with bugs, and so it was constant, send back, fix. Over time it's become pretty bug free. But where are you at in that? I mean, your users, are you finding that there's a lot of bugs that come into the system that?
Yeah, no. We feel like we've really ironed out that stage. We've had we launched with the market in September, but we had about a 2-month review period where we were testing it, and our methodology had over 800 different functionality checks on it to review that.
Okay.
And we're finding less and less that after, and part of the reason why is that, just to be transparent as well, the company that we developed the program with, the software company, they're a real rock solid company, but we had a warranty period about 100 or so days. That we did everything possible to find every single possible bug in that first few months.
Right.
After launch, to make sure that any bugs we found would be fixed as part of that warranty period.
Right.
So we feel pretty good we haven't done that, but the only way I can ever rest assured that to you, Robert, would be obviously I had to talk to people, but also not talking to end user, but also just to try it out yourself, use it for if we get that pilot going to see, your experience is what will make you feel confident about that.
So Chad, I'm sure he talked to you about a pilot period, right? We're getting some data on that. The concern I have with the pilot period is, let's say we pilot it for 3 months, right? And we don't get any result. I mean, we get limited, data. We get limited results on it, right? And so then trying to sell it, to people, it's like, hey, come back when you actually can show me some results, right? So, what do you think? I mean, do you think a 3-month time period is an adequate trial period for people learning it quickly and implementing it and getting results for a rollout? You know what I'm saying?
I do, and I can be very honest. Like, I don't know your business well enough at this point to say how easy it's going to be, because we're going to have to populate your content, make it sure it matches your workflows. But we have a lot of flexibility in our software to do that.
Right.
And so, but there are going to be that translation process where we interpret it, put it in, and then you run through it. Actually, we need to change this and this. I don't know how long it's going to take, and we'll be really responsive. But once that's done, it's figured out, right? Then it's figured out for everybody. Because other than the state-specific nuances, we're pretty much replicating the same system.
Right.
I think, like, in 3 months, you'll know. You'll have gone through a few referrals, and you'll have a good amount of data to see the reports. You'll know that you'll have a good idea if it's bug-free. Whether it's sufficient at that point to sell the rest of Armada, that's to be seen. And that might take another 3 months to show a couple more examples. And then, like what I'd say is, like, once you're confident, and Chad and everyone else is confident, then we can do a couple of case studies, walk through the examples to show, hey, from A to Z, here's some examples of how it was done. Mm-hmm. And if it's only two, even if you only have 4 or 5 examples, there's enough there. Okay, well, these are all the same. We just need to replicate this, and I think you start convincing people, and then and then it'll I don't know if it I mean what's best for Amada would be either buying it or incorporating it group wide, but I think within that 3 months you'll say, okay, yeah, it's bug free.
Right.
I see the workflow with a couple examples. It might, and then we'll see, hey, do we have enough here to do a couple of case examples where we can show it? And if so, it's enough. If not, it might take another month or two.
Right. Now, does the software come, is it going to come loaded with, like if I'm going to trial this here, does it come loaded with all of the local hospitals, local, nursing homes,
Yes.
home healthcare agencies?
So what we do is we pull the list from CMS provider numbers, and then other sources for ALS. We would send those lists to you to review and approve, and then we would load them into the software.
Okay. That's good. So each location is not going to be manually one by one kind of putting these things in as they go. Does it have the capacity of if something is not in there that they can, manually put in a new facility?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, and so for the care settings, it's a. In fact, I can log in real quick. I can. And I'll take back. I can show. Let me log in real quick, and I'll take back the. I can show my screen. I can show how easy it is to add them in.
Yeah, I'm making you the host now. We got to stop sharing. There we go. They should be able to share now.
Yeah.
And Robert, to your earlier point, one of the things we'd want to do is, really define up front, what would make the pilot a success, and then, align ourselves behind those goals, and so we know going in, okay, this is what we're going to need coming out of the pilot, and let's see, what we need to do to make this happen.
Yeah, so I'm going to just click on a name real quick, and I'll show you a couple ways to do the records. One second. To close a couple other windows I have open, I think. Give me a second while that goes.
I thought I read an article 6 months ago, and maybe he was referring to yours with Chuck with Care Patrol, that he was in the process of developing his own type of placement software that did discharge planning and all that kind of stuff. Was that article that he published, really a more of a marketing thing, or was he really talking about this relationship he has with you guys, or do you know?
Oh no, we don't have it was not. Excuse me. It was not a relationship with us.
Yeah.
We don't have anything with Chuck, so he may be developing his own. It wouldn't surprise me. We could talk about Chuck over beers someday. But no, he did not ship me. he wouldn't share anything with me if he was building it, but I've never heard him talking about that, and I've heard him speak a couple of times. He wasn't sharing that.
Yeah.
So like the way we have it is that we can customize these so that some of these don't show when we load, and then let's say you want to have a nursing provider, you have a list here that pre-populates just based on a keyword. It matches, and for some reason it's not on our list that we pre-populate. You can add. You can add their own.
Makes sense, and then it's going to fall into that skilled nursing facility category for future use.
Yeah, so see here's this like skilled nursing type name, and then just put the check is setting and hit save. We try to populate them all up front, so they don't have that issue. But if you want to add them, you can. You have that option.
Do you have tables for all the carriers? As you know, the big five, the Blue Crosses, Aetnas, and is there anything on the carrier side that you have table driven in there that would, like we
do. So right here for payers,
right.
we have the ACOs here, but we can populate that with different blues. That makes sense for your team.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big list. It's not hard to pull together. Again, it'd be the same process. We'd send you the list. You review it. You can also, I believe, you can add payers right here. Let's see. Cancel. Yes. I believe you can also add payers yourself. Forget. Just 1 second. You can add payers. If there's a payer that's not on a list, you can add it same way.
Have you guys talked with some of these carriers about kind of partnering with them to facilitate, control cost containment or anything like that? Seems like that'd be a good thing to do from, if I had this software here and I'm going in and talking with hospital, X, you say, hey, we're in conversations with, and we're working with, these big five payers to help, monitor and contain costs. And that's.
We talked to a couple small payers. To be honest, it has been a focus of ours for a couple of reasons. One, we're focusing on it. Sales that are a little shorter sales cycle than a payer, which can take years.
Right.
And I've also we've seen models happen where sometimes a payer will pay for a product for entire state for all their members, which would be a dream to get. But they take a long time. And with all of the current merger talk with Aetna and Humana and all those folks, this is not a time where any payer is really considering anything new because the future is so uncertain.
Right.
So we've said this is not the time to go into that. We may go there, but like I say, working with the payer is right up there with working with the grant. I mean, it's just like it's slow. There's all kinds of bureaucracy.
Yep.
And you end up spending a lot of time for stuff that doesn't pan out.
Right. Yeah, I just thought I'd ask. Like I was saying, phase 1, 2, 3, 4. As I've been contemplating, thinking about, I can just see lots of different directions you guys could take this thing. So, but like you said, everything in its appropriate, phase of development.
Yeah, no, we tried to develop a minimum viable product, and we ended up spending more time than we thought we would because everything's kind of integrated together. Mm-hmm. But no, I think we're looking at options then, and also the content. If we can develop our own library of content that eventually has a value of a brand that could help us as well. But we need we're just also focusing on just taking what we have now to market and getting some traction and seeing what the customers ask for the most.
Gotcha. Going back to the pricing presentation, Chad, did any of that get talked at all with Chad, or is this kind of the first exposure to the pricing at all?
Yeah, this is the initial exposure. We haven't talked about this with Chad yet.
Yeah.
But we will present it when we go, when we meet with him in a little over a week.
I know one of Chad's biggest concerns, so that he has as always, is we've seen this throughout the meetings, is, anytime he's rolling out new things to franchisees, he's always cost sensitive to what he's rolling out to the franchisees. You know what I mean? So,
Sure.
Just my experience with him, I know that there's going to be a little bit of kind of sticker shock a little bit when he looks at that, because it's just kind of what we talked about it from the standpoint of, perceived value and then real value. And I think that's what that trial period is going to be important, so to him, and also, for him to feel confident in kind of pitching that, hey guys, I've got an opportunity for you. It's going to cost you $7,200 to $10,000 a year. But we've tried it. There's some results, that's going to be a big thing to Chad.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes sense, and I think we're really going to have that conversation. Because if there's more models, especially at scale, we can look at other options. But
right.
I think we might also make it a little ahead of ourselves too. We need to prove we can make it work, and we're definitely flexible enough to try to pilot to show you what it's like to work with us.
Right.
And then this conversation's going to be a lot easier.
Sure. All right. Well, I think it seems pretty reasonable. It's very similar to, on a cost basis to what we're paying for the other software. At the 7,200 park, so
Mm-hmm.
so it's just a matter of whether or not other locations are ready to add this onto their revenue stream, whether or not they are so swamped in the home care side of it that they're at that development of their business, and I know that there are several that are, because that's why we're having this conversation. There's many of us that are looking to figure out how to add these placements, side on it. So.
Yeah, I know, and like you said, for the new ones that start, it's a lot easier to have this as a menu item as we're looking to make that investment, as opposed to afterwards.
Right.
So that if there's something they can see. But yeah, I'd be curious, Robert, if you, when you're talking to a franchise, and here's a franchise, there's two business lines you can choose from to start with, the home care or the referral. Do they have to start with the home care always, or do they have some flexibility?
Well, no, they have, ultimately, really, as I see this, if you have this partnership with the hospital where you're controlling this is not just placements, because you'll be doing home care as well. You're picking up all discharges. People are going to be coming home, and so.
That's right. Sure.
So no. Most people will start with they're going to start hitting both. They'll get some results on placements. There's a lot of work that goes into a placement. Once you get the referral, you got to get the contracts, you got to know the facilities, you got, and so, but it's, you don't have employees, so there's a lot of reasons why people get going initially with that. But once the home care referrals start coming in, now you're managing lots of employees, and it starts to, consume your business, which is good because you've got clients and whatnot. And then once that part of your business is stable, then that's when you start looking at going back to the placement model. So,
right.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things we can assist with that, Robert. I mean, we can build that kind of that process and protocol out, in the system for them to follow, step by step, and that kind of protects the franchise owner from, the sales rep leaving and having everything be so dependent on that person.
Right.
And then also, circling back to the hospital with the reports of like, okay, here's everything that we did, both, from the placement side, but also the home care side. And, here's all the interventions and the service we did. That's something, even if the sales rep leaves and takes that relationship, they're not going to have access to or be able to report back. So you still get the opportunity to own the relationship with that hospital, kind of at a higher level than just the discharge planner.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, it looks good. Looks good. I think now that yeah, I think just a matter of how we're going to roll out a trial on it. So, anything else you got to
Sure.
present to me? It's coming up on 9 o'clock. I got some things I got to jump on. So.
Yeah, no problem.
No, I don't have anything.
No, I was just going to say thank you so much for the information and your time, Robert. We're really excited about this and looking forward to getting together with Chad and talking further. But really appreciate the help, helping us understand the business a little more so we can, focus our presentation with him and get that trial underway.
You bet. Sounds good. Looking forward to talking to Chad after you guys talk, and we'll see if we can make this thing work.
All right. Well, have a great trip.
Yep.
Have a lot of fun.
Yep, we'll do.
No problem.
Yep, we'll see you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Rob, I'm stressing. You don't care about my life?
On the conference call.